This video of the Direwolf brought back after 13,000 years is a re-upload from Minutes of Horror. I was having issues replying to comments. Every time I tried to reply, I was getting an error, so I thought I'd delete the video and just re-upload here. We are going to be looking at some disturbing videos, strange and odd news stories, and as always, let's go ahead and get right into today's video. So if you have not heard by now, and I'm sure you have because it's all over the news and everybody's talking about this, scientists at a Dallas laboratory called Colosso Biosciences says they brought back the direwolf after being extinct for 13,000 years.
We turn now to that remarkable scientific breakthrough. 13,000 years after the last direwolf walked the earth, scientists say they've now brought them back. Here's our chief national correspondent Matt Gutman with the video tonight.
Tonight, a howl 13,000 years in the making. In a first for science, biotech company Colosso Biosciences says it brought the extinct direwolf back to life, a species that hasn't walked the earth since the Stone Age.
The direwolf is the first de-extinct species.
Well known from HBO's hit show Game of Thrones, ABC News given exclusive access into Colosso's lab in Dallas, where scientists are using genes from gray wolves to create dire wolves.
We've taken a gray wolf genome, a gray wolf cell, which is already genetically 99.5% identical to dire wolves, and we've edited those cells at multiple places in its DNA sequence to contain the dire wolf version of the DNA. That animal looks like a dire wolf, it will behave like a dire wolf, and it is a dire wolf.
Now, 7 months old, dire wolves Romulus and Remus eating well and getting bigger every day. And David, the company tells us they're not stopping there. They plan to have woolly mammoths roaming the earth again by 2028. But critics argue that this de-extinction could harm fragile ecosystems. David?
Yeah, the images are really something, Matt. Thank you.
Now, some people will say that these are not true direwolves. As you heard in that news segment, these are gray wolves that have been modified to become direwolves. But to me, in my opinion, this is just the truth in plain sight. They have been doing this for quite some time now, for decades, making chimeras, genetically modified animals, genetically modified people. So when we see news stories like this where they're genetically modifying gray wolves to turn them into direwolves, they're trying to make this the norm. All they're doing by presenting this to the news as a brand new scientific breakthrough that nobody's ever seen before, even though we know that they have been doing this for quite some time, is just, again, getting you used to the idea of genetically modified things. There are these things called DUMBs, deep underground military bases, where in locations that have desolate areas like New Mexico, Utah, Montana, and so forth, even Antarctica, they conduct these horrific experiments. Sometimes these experiments they escape, or they are let loose on purpose to see how they interact with the surrounding area. There was a news story that broke out back in 2018, and I'm reading this from CBS News. It's titled, "Mysterious Furry Creature Shot in Montana, Puzzling Wildlife Experts." This creature did not look like a dog, did not look like a wolf, did not look like a coyote, but looked like something of that species. The article continues to say that the animal was shot on a ranch outside Denton on May 16th, but looks as if it came out of the Ice Age. It looks almost like a wolf, except some features are a bit off. It has long grayish fur, a large head, and a snout, but its ears were too large, its legs and body too short, and its fur uncharacteristic of that common toy wolf. So again, they had no idea what this creature was. They said it looked like a wolf, but it had none of the characteristics. It looked so odd to them, they spent their own money to conduct a DNA test because they thought this was some kind of mythical creature. Before the DNA test came in, several wolf experts looked at a photo of the beast and doubted that it was a purebred wolf. Many members of the public agreed. Social media was quick to pronounce the animal as everything from a wolf to a wolf hybrid to something mythical, Montana FWP says. So after the DNA test results came back, the strange-looking creature was determined to be, as coincidence may have it, a young gray wolf, even though, like this news article says right here, it had very unusual features which fueled speculation. Isn't that very interesting? A gray wolf, the same type of wolf they used in that news story, they used to genetically modify to become a direwolf. But going back to that news story in 2018 with the DNA results, I'm reading this from the Great Falls Tribune. It says, in this case, there was very, very little, if any, support of the animal being a dog, coyote, or hybrid, it was very strongly placed in the wolf category. But then it goes to say that there are no wolf packs that are established in central Montana where the supposed gray wolf was found. Even when it comes to locations like the Skinwalker Ranch where people say they saw direwolves or these humanoid wolf-like creatures, maybe there's a deep underground military base nearby where these experiments are conducted on real animals or perhaps real people, and again, they're let loose. We always hear stories every year of monkeys escaping. Monkeys escaped from a truck. Monkeys escaped from a lab, like those monkeys, the 42 monkeys that had escaped from a lab in South Carolina. And you really have to wonder, are they really purebred monkeys or perhaps experiments allowed to escape, allowed to leave to see how they interact with the public, interact with nature? I don't trust half the stuff I hear from news and media. None of this stuff is new. These experiments could explain a lot of different sightings like Wolfman, Dogman, Bigfoot, and so forth. Remember this story that came out about 2 years ago?
Well, a strange creature has been spotted outside the Amarillo Zoo, and it's not an animal. It's not exactly a human. Take a look. Security cameras captured what appears to be a wolfman walking around the property. City officials say this image is real, and they're baffled by its mysterious appearance. So now they're asking for the public's input to figure out what the heck is it. Some have suggested it could be Chupacabra, that mythical beast-like predator that's become an urban legend. And others are calling this guy a UAO, as an unidentified Amarillo object. What do you
Now you may be saying, well, maybe it's a hoax, maybe it's a man in a wolf costume, maybe it is, or maybe it's not. Do you remember those news articles that went back to 2016 where the NIH, the National Institute of Health, considered restarting funding for a human-animal chimera research? Restarting, meaning they were doing the experiments before, they had the funding before, but they just stopped because I guess they ran out of money and they were waiting for more money. And now that they have the money again, well, they're restarting it. And reading this article from statnews.com, which was published on August 4th, 2016, it says, federal health officials said that Thursday they are reconsidering a moratorium on the funding of research in which human tissues are transplanted into early non-human embryos, creating organisms known as chimeras. The proposed rule changes, which the National Institutes of Health announced in a blog post, would allow the agency to pay for experiments that incorporate human tissue into early-stage animal embryos, except for those of primates like monkeys and chimps, because I guess they're too close to humans and it would create some Frankenstein monster like, I guess, a Bigfoot. Which is also interesting, going back to those 42 monkeys which escaped from a lab. And I'm going to play a news segment later on in this video where people in New Mexico thought they saw a Bigfoot escaping from an underground lab. This article I'm reading from NPR.org, where the NIH says they are actually going to go ahead and lift the ban. This part of the article says one issue is that scientists might inadvertently create animals that have partly human brains, endowing them with some semblance of human consciousness or human thinking abilities. Another is that they could develop into animals with human sperm and eggs and breed, producing human embryos or fetuses inside humans or hybrid creatures. Now, there was a bill that tried to be passed back in 2021, and you can see right here on congress.gov, Human Animal Chimera Prohibition Act of 2021. And this was actually ended by the Senate. The Senate voted along party lines to stop this bill. You can read this article right here from Forbes.com. The United States Senate on that Thursday voted along party lines to end a Republican amendment to a technological development bill aimed at banning experiments to create certain types of human-animal chimeras, which scientists use to further medical research over ethical concerns. The amendment would have imposed either 10 years imprisonment or a fine of at least $1 million or both for even attempting to create a human-animal chimera. So when we see news stories, see news clips of a possible wolfman sighting, a photo of a wolfman-like creature, yeah, it could be a hoax. Yeah, it could be a man in a wolf costume. But when they're trying to pass a bill to stop these human-animal chimeras from being made, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not a hoax. We don't know. The article goes on to say that scientists have spent decades creating chimeras to improve the testing of drugs and boost organ transplant research, but even within the scientific community, debates have raged about the relative humanity of chimeras and whether they are ethical. And if you really believe they stopped at just embryos and didn't allow these embryos to grow out, well, I don't know what to tell you. Like I said, in Dulce, New Mexico, where there's said to be a deep underground military base where experiments are conducted, creating these chimeras and so forth, these residents said they saw certain things come from the ground and around this certain location.
Dulce is a quiet, unassuming town nestled in northern New Mexico. Many of its residents are members of the Jicarilla Apache tribe. They swear.
I tell stories, but my nose isn't growing.
They are not making this up.
They threw down a ladder from that spaceship, and then two small people started climbing down.
Jerry Julian says she had her first extraterrestrial encounter right here on her Dulce ranch about 40 years ago.
It was huge. I just saw the bottom of it. You know, it was like flat like this.
Many of her neighbors claim similar strange sightings.
Fat in the middle and kind of like rounded on the sides. You're speechless, you know? You just don't know what to think, you know? It's just like, it's like nothing you've ever encountered before.
Why are stories of the extraordinary ordinary here?
I do not know. I do not know. Probably in kind of that big mountain we have right there, you know.
Rumor has it there is a secret base hidden underneath the Archuleta Mesa here. The mountain overlooks Dulce. Some people in town say the base is run by aliens working with our federal government to conduct mind control and genetic experiments. Do you believe that?
Yeah. Well, a whole bunch of people seen it, you know.
Like the ground opened up, steam coming out of it.
They also claim they've seen some creatures cooked up in those experiments, like Bigfoot and something half human.
Down this way, the waist down, it's a goat. It has a tail. But up here, it's a man.
People tell me Dulce wasn't always a center for supernatural activity, but then sometime in the 70s, things changed. That's when cows started turning up mutilated.
They just cut out in between the legs right here. We've seen one.
I know it's not a predator that's doing it. Someone's doing it.
Local police never definitively said who's to blame. Locals say it has to be something out of this world. And since then,
I was taking a random picture, zoomed it in, and there was a UFO right there.
They say they know it sounds crazy.
They're just going to ask me, well, how much did you drink or what did you drink?
I'll submit to a lie detector test or anything, you know.
But say it's the truth. Question is, do you believe?
Anything possible these days now.
In Dulce, Megan Cruz, KOAT Action 7 News.
So when it comes to this direwolf, when it comes to this supposed woolly mammoth, this is just nothing more than phase one of getting you to accept their creations and experiments now being out in the public. Who knows what they're going to say they created next that's always been here, perhaps maybe a dragon or some type of lizard person, and they're going to say it's something brand new, a scientific discovery, but again, they have been doing this for years, and this is their way to condition you to now accept it. And like I said, and I said this in my last video yesterday as well, they present you with these news stories as if they were new, but they're not. They have been doing this stuff and they've known about this stuff for, again, decades. They are now just for whatever reason trying to get you accustomed to it. So when you see their experiments out in public, perhaps in a zoo or even walking around, you'll say to yourself, well, the man on the TV... The man on the TV told me it was just an experiment conducted last year and everything's going to be okay. That's what the man on the TV told me. Maybe even the story of those panda puppies were a psyop. Remember that story I covered last year where those people in China, they paid to go see baby pandas at the zoo? When these baby pandas came out, there were nothing but chows spray painted to look like pandas. And I even said to myself, I would love a panda dog. That's what these news stories are designed to do. We think everything's a distraction, but these news stories are designed to make you accept this, accept that, accept their very strange experiments. Didn't you hear what they said at the end of the news segment? That they're going to go ahead and next work on trying to bring back the woolly mammoth. And nobody's going to say anything. Nobody's going to try to say, well, maybe that's a bad idea because the direwolves, they are so adorable. And this is just going to be some elephant they genetically modify. But in any case, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support. Phase 1.